Now to the legal landscape this morning. Defense attorney Dan Adams joins us every Monday, breaking down the biggest cases happening across Wisconsin and the country. Good morning, Dan. Now that former President Donald Trump has been elected the next president, the Department of Justice is planning to drop its cases involving classified documents and election interference. Can you explain why that is?
Sure, and good morning. So it was about 2 years ago when Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed a special counsel in the Trump matters. Special counsel is appointed when they believe that there is a conflict of interest. And in this case, it was right after Donald Trump announced he was going to seek election again. They thought they had a conflict. They appointed somebody from outside of the Department of Justice to come in and look at those matters. Now, in June of 2023, the indictments started rolling out. First, there was the classified documents case in Florida, and then there was the January 6th case in D.C. Now, both of those cases have been litigated, and both were kind of on life support already. The case in Florida, the documents case, that was already thrown out by the district court judge there. That was going up for appeal in the 11th Circuit. So that was already significantly delayed. The DC case, of course, has already gone to the Supreme Court, which decided issues of immunity and put that case on the back burner as well. So these cases were supposed to be tried before the election. They were not. And now that Donald Trump is in charge of Department of Justice, he can come in and essentially fire Jack Smith. But it sounds like the Biden administration is going to do that before Trump takes office. Jack Smith, we're told, is packing up his office and getting that ready.
Yeah, very interesting developments there. Donald Trump is also still facing sentencing later this month in his hush money case in New York, but that may never happen either. Talk about why a judge is set to decide this week whether his felony convictions should just be overturned.
Well, sure. Whether they're overturned or just thrown out, this is kind of really interesting. We've never had a president, who of course is the highest federal official, be set for sentencing in a state court. And basically what the Constitution says in Article 2 of the Constitution, it has qualifications for the president. And essentially a state cannot interfere with the qualifications of the president. So there could be a constitutional argument here. There's also those immunity law that came down from the Supreme Court regards to the DC case. That could be applied in the New York State case because some of the witnesses in that case were serving with Trump in his White House. So there may be a flaw there that the court looks at. But really, this is about practicalities. How in the world do you sentence a sitting president or someone who is about to take the presidency? It's just a practical matter that somehow the state will have to either concede in New York or the judge will, who knows, put this on a delay for the remainder of the 4 years that Trump is in office.
Yeah, definitely a lot of developments to come before inauguration in January. Dan, thank you so much. We'll see you next Monday for more of the legal landscape.